Are you a business looking for a fresh new way to reach potential customers? Well, you need to get airtime on IT TV, a 24/7 streaming and on-demand TV service online and on Roku. With Roku having a potential reach of 62 million people, it's a perfect opportunity to reach potential customers through affordable commercial and infomercial spots. Visit us online today at itnetwork.tv.
Good morning, and happy Monday to you. I hope everyone has had a safe, happy, blessed weekend. We're going to have an amazing show for today. I am your host, Sharifah Hardie, and I'm going to introduce you to some new friends, some new guests. We haven't had them on the show before, but I'm pretty sure you're going to learn from them. And I know there's someone in your circle, in your network, maybe a friend, a spouse. There's someone who's starting out their business. Maybe they're a new entrepreneur and they need this information that we're sharing today, but they won't have this information unless you share the show with them. So send that text, send that tweet, make a post, let them know the Roundtable Talk Show is live. Because as I always say, friends don't let friends miss out on the Roundtable Talk Show. So while you're going ahead and sharing the show with your friends, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our very first guest, Mr. Callen Mcgibbon. Callen is co-founder of REPerformance. He has built 3 companies in the health and fitness industry in retail, service, and technology. Human development has been his passion for his entire life. Good morning, Callen. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you? Thanks very much for the introduction.
I'm excited to have you on the show.
I'm pretty excited to be here. Actually, I'm excited for the concept. I like the idea of us all just kind of talking about different topics and bringing value to those that are interested in the entrepreneurship experience.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you passionate about?
Well, I am Callan Mcgivin, and I started my career as a trainer. I've owned a health food store, an elite training company, and most recently I own a software company that sells software for to help with the delivery of phys ed. What I'm passionate about? Well, I'm passionate about seeing people develop, especially physically. I guess my juice in life has always been that kind of stumbled into this training industry by accident. And when I saw that the impact that it would have when people were investing time in themselves in a positive way, and like how no matter whether they came in to see me and they were in a great mood, they left in a greater mood, or if they came in and they were in a bad mood, they left in a great mood. And I think that's what got me hooked. And I just got hooked on that, and that became kind of my juice. And then I just kept trying to find ways to reach more people and more people and more people, and then growing my businesses. And then, okay, my service business could only grow so much because, there's only so many people in my city. So how can you reach more people? And I was like, well, technology can let me reach a lot of people. So then I went into technology, and now, I'm in 3 countries with our technology platform, helping thousands and thousands of kids every day learn how to exercise through phys ed. And that's my passion.
Oh, I love it. No, so let me just ask you, if people came in watching this show in a certain mood, when they leave, their mood is going to be that much better, right, Callen?
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be way better.
Okay, we have more questions for you. We are going to come back to you, but I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, the lovely Miss Emily McGill.
Hello.
Hi, Emily. I want to introduce you.
Great.
Emily is a tarot reader and storytelling strategist. After a New York entertainment career as an expert communications consultant and Broadway publicist, her path of self-exploration led to healing and evolution and reading tarot cards professionally. Invited to read tarot for virtual Burning Man in 2021, Emily has also been featured by the Tamron Hall Show, the New York Post, and Thrive Global. She's also currently developing her own deck. Good morning, Emily. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fabulous. It's so great to be here. Thank you so much.
It's wonderful to have you. Are we going to have a tarot reading today?
Well, I just slipped away so I could grab some cards in case anyone's interested. So I do have a deck here with me. It's called the True Heart Intuitive Tarot. This is a deck created by a woman named Rachel True, who is an awesome actress known most readily for The Craft or Half Baked, but she also has a beautiful tarot deck. So I have that here in case that's of interest today.
It's always an interest to me. So if you feel the spirit and the spirit moves you to give Sharifah Hardie a message, I receive that.
Excellent. We love to see it.
Tell us about yourself, Emily.
Yeah, so I say I'm a recovering Broadway publicist. I spent about 15 years working in and around the Broadway community, doing PR for Tony Award-winning musicals like The Lion King, Memphis, and Billy Elliot. I worked on Aladdin on Broadway. I handled PR for Raisin in the Sun, starring Denzel Washington, which won a Tony Award. So some really fun, amazing, high-level things. And pre-pandemic, I got to the point where I didn't quite understand how I landed where I was. I had started my own business. I was working with clients, but I wasn't happy. And the pandemic gave me an opportunity to revisit and reconsider what really lit me up. And I found that my self-awareness journey, my journey in therapy and healing that had led me to the tarot is really what I wanted to spend my time doing. And so now I'm working on combining those two passions together, along with every other facet of myself. I love being a crazy plant lady. I love to cook. There are so many. I love community. I'm a really big advocate and co-conspirator in the social justice movement, especially within the Broadway community. So this has been a beautiful opportunity during the pandemic to sort of weave all these different facets of myself together and bring all of them to every table I'm invited to.
But that was a beautiful commercial. I love the way you ended that. That was that Broadway in you. You was like, grand finale. I like that. I got some questions for you, Emily, and we'll see if somebody else is interested in getting a reading. I do,
Great.
Being the host, I'm always like, me.
Yeah. Well, we can do a group reading too.
Yes, we'll do a group reading. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, because sometimes people be like, no, but I'm like, see, even Anthony Oakes is tuning in. He said that was an amazing commercial, Emily. So the listeners are rooting for you, but I get easily distracted. So you have a lot of contrast, but we're going to introduce our next guest who has some contrast as well, Miss Lynn Yap. Lynn is the managing director for Activate Network, an organization that works with companies to empower women into leadership and technology roles. She is also the author of The Altruistic Capitalist, How to Lead for Purpose and Profit. Good morning, Lynn. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here today and to be part of this show with everyone else.
I'm happy to have you, and I've never heard of an altruistic capitalist.
Yeah, I picked the title on purpose. We all have ideas of what capitalism is, and I chose a word that is completely opposite of what we think of what capitalism is, because I think that it is possible to do capitalism differently from what we know of it today.
Okay, well, tell us about yourself. What are you passionate about, Lynn?
So I'm passionate about businesses as a force for good. I think there is, I think companies that focus on creating a positive impact for the environment, for the community, can do well from a financial perspective as well. That these companies can create real business value and return sustainable growth for investors. So that's what I'm passionate about, and how it has come about is, as you mentioned, one of it is the manifestation through this book, The Altruistic Capitalist. I wrote it when the idea came when I was, locked up in my apartment without anyone, because I live alone. So I decided what better time than to write a book. So I'm the author of The Altruistic Capitalist. I interviewed companies that work in this space, social entrepreneurs, and I gathered their insights and put this into the book. And then the second thing I do is, as you mentioned, I'm the managing director for Activate Network. What we do is we design customized programs for companies, and these programs are multi-generational programs. We have women employees of these companies work with high school students, female high school students, on a 3-month program where they solve business problems together. So both women and high school students actually learn empathy, creative creativity, leadership skills, tools that will help them be more successful and be better women leaders in the future. So through those two things, that's how my passion in businesses as a force for good come to life. So
I like
that's
that. I
me.
like that. You do a lot of different things, but then you said I was locked up. I thought you were going in a different direction. I thought you
No.
were tell us I did this 10 to 15 prison bid and I wrote the book to, you know what I mean? But hey, your life is too great, Lynn. I love it. I just thought we were going in a different direction. We never know on the Round Table Talk Show. Hi, Peter. I caught Peter in the middle of a cough. Hi, Peter.
A sneaky cough. Hello.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for tuning in. My next guest is Peter. He's an award-winning entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience in building and advising some of the world's top brands. He's an active participant and early mover in emerging and highly regulated industries, including both cannabis and psychedelics. How are you, Peter?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. I'm at the tail end of a cold/flu, so you'll see me sipping my tea throughout this. But other than that, I'm doing very well.
I'm sorry to hear that. So my question is, Peter, and we friends now. We got to know each other, so we can get past the niceties. What's in that tea? No, I'm just kidding. Don't answer that. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Who am I and what do I do? So I'm an entrepreneur. On the business side, I've been creating products and brands for the better part of 15 years. I am an Australian that grew up in England and now live in the Arctic tundra that is Toronto, Canada. Most of my business life has been spent helping other people build brands, but also doing a lot of that work myself. So I've built nutraceutical kind of functional health brands. More recently, I've been working in cannabis, both launching brands in California and in Canada. And then my recent project is all about psychedelics and how we can leverage psychedelics for self-improvement, but also functional mushrooms. So the company is called Gwella, and it's focused on mushrooms, both functional, which is actually what's in my tea, since you asked, chaga mushrooms, and psychedelic mushrooms, and how we can integrate them into our day-to-day life for self-improvement and personal growth. And this company's been a long time in the making for me. I had during my first agency and company that I built, I got very carried away and picked up lots of kind of toxic work habits and kind of hustle culture type habits, and had a variety of different health issues as a result of it. At the time, I started to discover a lot of these different techniques, meditation, hot, cold therapy, but also that's when I discovered functional mushrooms. And so I started to buy functional mushrooms. I started to grow functional mushrooms. And so about 8-10 years ago is when my journey really started. And then just pre-COVID pandemic, there was the opportunity to start a new company. And so that was the area that I really wanted to build in. I wanted to build in a company that created products and brands that help people on a day-to-day basis with their health and wellness.
Well, I like that. We had a show, and I believe it was Wednesday. It was Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, where this was an older lady who all she wanted to talk about was psychedelic mushrooms. And so I joked with her at the beginning. I'm like, I guess we got to talk about the psychedelic mushrooms, but I didn't want to push the issue. So somewhere around the 40-minute mark, she was like, we have to talk about these psychedelic mushrooms. Okay, well, let's talk about the mushrooms then, because, but then I spent the whole show going, I will neither confirm nor deny. You don't have to either confirm or deny what you do, what you don't do, because sometimes people want to talk about things and support things, but they don't necessarily want the world to know, what they have going on. Emily, what are your thoughts on what Peter had to say?
Oh, I'm all for it. I have been using cannabis medicine myself for many years. I am thoroughly interested in mycelium and, you know, how we've evolved from mushrooms as humans. I mean, there's so much connectivity that happens in our brains that are similar to the structures of mycelium. So it's something that I am totally here for, and enjoy myself on a regular basis. Though I have not tried microdosing, which is something that I'm really curious about. I'm more for the big trips.
I'm in California, okay, and you guys are way over my head. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Mycelium, superpowers, I don't know. Krypton, I don't know. It is tonight, I don't know. It's all news to me, and I'm not trying to learn. But I did have a question for Callan in this conversation. One of the things that I think is so horrible, for lack of a better word, is that schools are no longer really pushing PE and phys ed like they did when I was growing up. Do you see this as an issue as well?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like the existence of our product, is to obviously create more of to give kids more tools to actually leave school with, to maintain their health. So I think where things kind of went wrong was phys ed for a long time, and probably most of us here, it was around like their traditional sport rotation. So you would learn like, you know, basketball, football, soccer, badminton, different sports. But like, I think the statistics are crazy. Like 86% of kids when they leave high school don't continue on playing activities recreationally or professionally. So how did that really give us any tools to, you know, be equipped to maintain our health when we're gone? Like, you know, we learn math, reading, writing, science, some basic geographies, maybe some religion. And that gives us the tools to kind of be baseline successful outside of school. But phys ed didn't do that. So it's really been shifting a lot into more of a question, or I guess it's shifting more into more of like a fitness / meditation / yoga / nutrition concept. But the curriculum's really trying to do that, and they don't have the tools to do it. And now the problem is the teachers aren't coming. Phys ed teachers aren't being educated in that way. They're still being educated in the sports stream. So it's really in a big shift right now. But there's a lot of schools that have shifted into like a full, like personal fitness style phys ed program. And kids are graduating with the skills to be able to maintain their health for life, which is great, right? Like you can think about the pandemic we just went through. Like if you relied on playing basketball 3 times a week with your friends to stay fit, I mean, that didn't really help you during the pandemic. So, I mean, if you knew how to work out, you could do bodyweight workouts in your house. You know how to meditate, you can do that anywhere. You know how to do yoga, you can do that. You can stream it to yourself. So these are skills, understand these skills, you can take them with you and you can apply them all the time. And you can essentially tie the mental piece into it, and you can start to teach kids how doing these things affect their mood. And then you can kind of get them hooked on it, which is a good thing to be hooked on, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of the schools here, they've removed PE entirely from the school system. That's what I was noticing.
Yeah, I mean, we're in schools in Sweden, the United Kingdom, and Canada, not in the United States. But there's a company similar to us in the United States called Platform that's doing a really great job. And I think they're in about 1,000 schools across the U.S.
That's good. That's good.
So,
Lynn, what are your thoughts?
I've actually got a couple of questions for Callan. I'm wondering, like, what do you think the resistance is? What do you think stops kids from moving after they graduate from high school? And then the other thing is, I'm also super curious as to how we can start kids to meditate. I meditate myself, but I think it's something that's quite difficult to get kids to just sit down and be still and to focus on their breath, for instance. So I'm curious to hear about your experience in that.
How we've been doing it in the platform is with like graphs and like little GIFs. So we teach them box breathing first. So, inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. And it's just a little diagram and an arrow that just goes around. And we have like a wellness component in our platform as well that allows kids to just kind of do like a wellness checkup now and again. And it gives them like an index score. So like, how am I feeling? Am I feeling restful? Am I feeling a high level of anxiety? Am I feeling happy? So it gives them these indexes in 3 basic categories. And then we teach them that, if you're feeling anxiety, then we can cue them to do these breathing techniques. And then from the breathing techniques, they can kind of dive deeper down that hole through differentiated learning. So basically giving them different tools to access through a platform that allow them to learn deeper into a subject of interest. So that's how we introduce meditation.
Wow. Peter, do you meditate?
I do. I think I'm better about talking about meditation and actually doing the meditation.
What is talking about? What does that even mean, Peter?
Well, I'm one of those people that I really I get into things, I nerd out on things. I totally get the benefits of meditation. I definitely try and integrate it into my day-to-day life, but it's also one of those things I really like that integration, method of integrating it with kids, but it's a difficult thing to stay on top of because the results aren't immediately obvious to you when you're doing it. And it compounds over time. So yeah, I try and do it. I have actually steered more into breath work as a day-to-day tool for me. There's a really neat app that I like called Othership that kind of turns breath work more into a activity that's engaging and kind of fun, rather than just relying on you thinking that it's going to be that's going to be good over a long period of time. So it's kind of it's quite up and quite engaging, and you definitely feel immediate effects in the moment, and it still has a lot of those core fundamentals of being able to be still in your mind and kind of focus in and not getting carried away with thoughts and things like that. So I've just found it a lot more of an easy, engaging tool to integrate into my mornings. But I really want to integrate more meditation into my life. It's a question of time for me. I've been desperate to do a Vipassana training course, that 10-day silent retreat style meditation, but it's difficult. That's my main problem I run up against with all of this stuff is finding the time and making the space to be able to do this on a regular basis to get the ongoing results.
Okay.
I've actually done Vipassana a couple of times.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I feel like if it's when you feel like you don't have time, it's when you probably need to prioritize it and put it at the top of your list.
No, I hate myself for saying it. I know that's what everybody says. They don't have time. I'm so busy, blah, 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 blah. So no, I completely agree.
I'm kind of with you, Peter, because for me, it's meditation is something that I struggled with for a long time, with just focusing on the breathing because my mind is constantly racing. And working with a hypnotherapist actually helped me a lot. So I've done some hypnotherapy sessions with her, and she also taught me how to self-hypnotize. So my morning meditation is more of a self-hypnosis that I then dive in and I'm sort of giving my subconscious some cues and things like that. Which, we all could sort of do it our own ways, but what's to say that breath work isn't meditation for you?
I was going to say the same exact thing, because some of the most successful people have said they don't sit down and do an actual, what some people would consider meditation. They do it as a part of their morning run. They do it while they're washing the dishes. They do it in other aspects, which people wouldn't consider meditation, but it's just that ability to just zone out. And then another thing you said, Peter, it may not be something that you notice. It may be a long-term effect. But one of the things is I notice when I'm not meditating. I'm like, okay, I must have forgot to meditate over the last couple of days because I'm not as calm. I'm not as grounded. And then because I try to meditate every morning for about 15 minutes, and that quiets my mind, gets me calm for the rest of the day. So I definitely notice when I haven't meditated.
Sharifah, that's my best friend and I talk about this too, taking our supplements, right? It's the same idea. We don't notice how we feel different when we take our supplements. But once, if there's a couple of days that I forget, all of a sudden I'm like, what is wrong with me? And it's that I haven't taken, the extra sort of nutrition that I've been adding into my diet as well. Yes,
absolutely. I agree. Callen, do you notice do you meditate?
Yeah, I do. I kind of flip back and forth between some breath work, similar. to meditation, because I find, for me personally, I think that having like expectations on meditation is pretty tough. I find it very much like working out. Like it's a really long process. And there's days when it's really just hard, and, you know, you don't necessarily feel like doing it, but you should anyways. So sometimes I just do like standard breath work, like Wim Hof type stuff. And then sometimes I can get into like a great meditation and kind of be there for 5 to 15 minutes usually for me. I'm like a big routine person. So, you know, I'm like a 4 a.m. start person. I have like an hour routine I do before 5. And then I have like 5 to 6, I do education work. Because I feel like every day you got to learn something, especially if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur. And then I start my workday at 6. So.
Yes. I heard the pain in your voice, Emily, when Callen said
yeah.
4 a.m. I heard that response. And it was the same feeling I had when Peter said he was going to try that 10-day meditation. I was like, oh, no, 10 days? Like, I couldn't get through 10 hours. I'm like, no, let me go. Let me move. I was one of those kids who, back in my day, we didn't have ADHD or ADD or anything like that. It was just, they just said, sit your ass down. That's how they solved that problem. But I was one of those, I was all over the place till my mom cured me. She had the magic cure. She asked the teachers, she said, because they would tell her I would talk too much. And my mom said, well, did she do all her work? And they said, yes. And they said, did she do all her work correctly? And they said, yes. And my mom said, well, give her some more work. And I was like, no, I'll sit down and stop bothering the other kids. But I heard your response, Emily, when Callen was talking about 4 a.m. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I so deeply respect folks like you, Callen, that have the ability to do that early morning thing. But I also come from the Broadway industry where most people aren't getting off of work until 11 o'clock at night. And so then you need sort of to come down from that. So the idea of a very early morning for someone that requires their 8 hours of sleep is like 4 a.m. just isn't feasible, because I'm not going to be asleep at 8 p.m. That's just not going to happen for me. My personal sort of biological clock has me waking up every morning around 8 a.m. And like my sweet spot to get work done is 11 to 4. And then sometimes I'll find myself, like last night, I happened to sit down when I got home from the theater around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And I ended up working until 10 p.m. last night because it was sort of moving through me, and I was here and I was ready to go. And, you know, the asynchronous working styles that the pandemic has offered a lot of people more acceptance of have been really beneficial for me. So I love delay delivery, you know, a send later on an email. I was, you know, up until 10, 11 o'clock last night getting work done. So I deeply respect those that can do the morning thing, but that's not me.
How about you, Lynn?
Well, I'm a morning person too. I like the first 2 hours of the morning for me. And it can be during the lockdown as well. I think I started at 5 and then became 6. Now I'm more like a 7 a.m. But I like the first 2 hours to myself. I work out, I journal, meditate. I like starting my days like that. I think it really sets the intention and sets the whole day on the right path.
Right. And we have to go out there and get that money. They're right, Lynn.
Yeah. Indeed.
How about you? Go ahead,
sorry.
Callen.
Well, I was just going to say, like, what processes does everybody use? Like, I use kind of like a hybrid of Tony Robbins' RPM, like a rapid planning method. So I kind of adjusted a little bit to fit my own routine a bit. I actually in this one right now that I really like, when my staff introduced me to it, they're called Clever Fox. So, I mean, what do you guys use to stay organized, like as a daily thing?
You can't just offer us a new thing, a Clever Fox, and then don't tell us what Clever Fox is.
Okay. So what it's a concept that, like, it's a journal, like a daily planner concept, but it gives you the ability to like attach like an emotion to all of your goals for the week, day, month. So you kind of can put purpose behind everything rather than just it being a task. So I have been I was a rapid planning method person, like, because I've done some Tony Robbins courses and stuff. So I was using his, but I found it kind of scattered. you know, like you have to flip from the months to the plans to the, like all over the book kind of, whereas this one's got it kind of like all in one section. So you've got your month and then your weeks, and then you've got your month review, you got your weekly reviews, and it's all kind of in one nice kind of chunk. You don't have to flip around through the book all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But I just use like that just to kind of like keep myself in check. And obviously everyone's here is entrepreneurial, and that's kind of obviously the big thing that separates entrepreneurs from most folks is you have the ability, you stay organized and you plan it out, right? So I was just wondering what other tools people are using here.
Well, we're going to find out about the tools, and we're going to give Tony Robbins your feedback and let him know on how he can improve his system. But we're going to get some answers to those questions right after this commercial break.
You need jordansrooter.com. Get free estimates, 24-hour service, special discounts for seniors and veterans. That's jordansrooter.com. Have a home repair or some remodeling you need done? No problem. We can handle all that too. Give us a call today at 800-300-0358. At Jordan's Rooter, we take pride in our work and always make sure to get the job done right the first time. That's jordansrooter.com. We want to be your Mr. Fix-It.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really needed
A good business consultant.
And I kept searching and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list. But I finally did it.
Yes. Thank you.
If you are looking for one as well, look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend. Problem gone.
Thank you.
If you are just now tuning in to today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show, we've been having a very interesting conversation. I think a lot of it is based on the psychedelic mushrooms in Peter's tea. I don't know. Are there mushrooms actually in the tea? But this has been a great conversation. So I'm going to allow everyone the opportunity to respond to Callan's question. And I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Lynn.
What tools do I use? So Trello for project management type stuff. In terms of, I guess, am I keeping track? What I do at the start of each year is to set the intention of what is it that the 3 things that I want to invest my time in. And then I mentioned earlier that I journal. So I also keep track of what are the things that I want to learn and what are the things that I have learned. So it could be something as simple as certain things related to how I negotiate a contract. So that's like something I've learned. Something is I want to learn how is it that I can do business development better or something like that. Or it could be a particular subject. So that's the sort of things that I keep in my journal. I hope that's helpful.
It helps a lot. We're just getting a wide perspective. Peter, what do you got going on over there? What's your response to Callan's question?
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of these macro sessions for myself. So at the beginning of the year, I'll set business goals, things that I want to achieve in business life, and then also personal goals. So on the business side, it could be revenue, it could be products, it could be new brands, something like that. And then on the personal side, it's largely revolved for me around being, more present, things like that. I think I struggle with kind of digital addiction, phone addiction. So there's generally something like that, like how to create more boundaries, get more nature. We had our first child last year. So a big part of my goals for this year was, thank you, was, be a good dad and put a lot of effort into that and be there. And, occasionally I'll find myself looking at a phone while he's playing, and I, constantly kind of put that down and focus on what's important in life. So there's these kind of business, personal goals at the beginning of the year. And then I typically do, for myself, I really like thinking about work on a Sunday night. So I'll make a list just in a journal on everything that I want to get done in the week. And then I'll have daily checklists that I make, and then during the day I'll start stroking these things off the checklist. I used to use a lot of digital tools for this stuff, and I just found it didn't really work very well for me. I didn't really like introducing another app or something like that into my life. A lot of I really try now and just get off as many apps as possible. And so I really like using physical books, physical journals, physical checklists. Of course, in the businesses themselves, we have, project management systems, Trello, things like that. But my kind of day-to-day, like executive planning is all notepads and checklists.
I like that. One of the things I've heard from the parents who've had children during this pandemic is their children are going to grow up and be like, oh my God, you get to actually go outside. Like people were outside. Like we didn't always just, as Lynn would say, stay locked up. So they're going to be really surprised. Emily, what kind of planning do you do?
I'm more about listening to my intuition. Planning, right? Shocking. The witch is like the intuition. But so much of my life was planned, whether it was for me or by me, that getting into the pandemic, that sort of messiness of not having a really strict structure, first, I think was detrimental to me in some ways because my moon is in Virgo. So I do love structure. I do love systems. But ultimately, I realized that I was trying to enforce things onto myself that didn't necessarily feel like they fit, or they maybe fit sometimes and not all the time. So I don't have a hard and fast rule for how I do things. Every morning I wake up and, of course, have my rituals of, like I said, doing my hypnotherapy. I light my candles for my grandmothers. I cleanse the energy from my vessel. I will pull my daily tarot card and sort of reflect a little bit on that in my journal, and then I'll dive in. And I'm kind of like Peter. I prefer an analog approach oftentimes to taking notes and my to-do list. I do have a physical notebook I like to use, but I also use my inbox as a to-do list in many ways, whether it's an email that needs to go out or something that needs to be responded to. So there's a lot of different tools and things, but ultimately, I think my calendar and my inbox are what save me every day. If it's not in my calendar, I'm not going to make the time for it. So that includes like yoga practices. That includes, even my mornings. I know that nothing gets scheduled before 11 a.m. because I need to make sure that stuff gets fit in as well as I can.
11 a.m. I got you. I'm like that.
I'm in New York. I'm coming from the theater community. It was such a jolt in my system when I was working at a traditional PR agency and we had to be at the office at 9 a.m. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm usually getting up at 9 a.m. Like, I'll get there as early as I can, Wonder I lasted 3.5 years there, but I did. And it was just really interesting to find that these sort of structures don't work quite as well for me. It's really about listening to my intuition and feeling into what feels aligned for me in that moment.
I agree. One of my dad's favorite expressions is know thyself. He loves to say know thyself. And as I get older and older, I learned to know myself even more.
Self-awareness is the best gift that you could have for yourself. It really
Are we ready for our reading, Emily?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So Sharifah, I'm going to have you cut these cards.
Okay.
You're going to tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Great. And I think that this is a great group of humans to do this one. We're going to pull 3 cards. It's called What Will Help You, What Will Hinder You, and What is Your Untapped or Your Unrealized Potential. So that's what we're going to dive into with these cards. So this is what will help you. And this is the 5 of Wands. So we can see this card here, and I'm like trying to figure out how to get it to you so you can see it so well. So the tarot is made up of 2 parts. There's the major arcana and the minor arcana. The major arcana are our magic cards. When they show up, we pay special attention. The minor arcana is more like a traditional playing deck. So we've got 4 suits, ace through 10, and then 4 court cards instead of 3. So this is the 5 of Wands. Our wands, that's our passion, our drive, our creativity. That's the stuff that lights us up, that gets us out of bed in the morning, right? All entrepreneurial spirits here, so we're not surprised by this card. And this 5 is about halfway through that journey of 1 through 10. So it's kind of saying, take stock of where you are, where you've been, and where you think you're going. It's literally what we were just talking about, right? It's like, what are the structures and the things that you want to create for yourself and how you use those, and dive into those things for yourself. And so what's going to help you is more of that, right? Doing more of that for yourself. Let's see what's going to hinder us. And this is the 5 of Cups. So our cups, that's our emotions, our feelings, and our intuition. And we can see this is a sad card, right? This is not a happy card. There's someone weeping in a tub full, and there's spilled cups everywhere. And the 5 of Cups is a card that says, what's going to hinder you in this reading is saying, if you wallow in the things that don't go well, that don't work out for you, if you get stuck in the emotions of why isn't this, what's going on, woe is me sort of idea, that is not helpful, right? We need to have those feelings, but we need to move through them, right? We need to allow them to continue moving. Water is such an amorphous substance, unless it's frozen, there is not, water takes whatever shape of the vessel that it's in. And so we need to allow that vessel to continue to move energy through us. And then our unrealized or untapped potential, of course, is a major arcana card now. And magic. So yes, our magic cards. And the major arcana also corresponds to the human soul's evolutionary journey. So it starts with the Fool, which is very trusting, very naive, very sort of, we're off to see the wizard kind of energy. And then it goes all the way up through the World, which is very healed energy. And we've got the High Priestess here, which is towards the beginning, but the High Priestess is all about our intuition, like tapping into what our spirit is saying to us and how we bring that into the world. And that's what it's saying. Like our unrealized or untapped potential is the depth of the intuition that we each hold within ourselves.
Wow. So basically, if what you're saying to all of us, because this was for the group and the people who are watching,
yes,
is that we need to kind of think about where we are, analyze who we are, and then we can't wallow in what is not good and going the way it is, and trust our intuition to move us forward. Is that what's the?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Interesting.
Yeah. And that was like, a very speedy version.
Of course. Callan,
reading.
What did you think? You got a reading today. Were you expecting that?
No. But that's cool. There's lots of value there. I think it's great.
Okay.
It's good. You got to just stay open to that. So you can apply that, right? You can apply it to yourself and just run with it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Lynn, what were your thoughts?
I love that. I like learning about new things and trying out new things. It's a good reminder as well as we're coming towards the year end, and I do my annual reflection to just not let some of the things that I wanted to achieve this year get me down, and focus on what's coming up ahead, and let my intuition guide me perhaps then for what I want to achieve for next year. So yeah, that was cool. Thank you.
Peter, are you with us? Did we lose Peter?
Oh, you might be
Peter's frozen.
Peter said he got wooed out, so now he needs a refill in his.
Something I like to say about the tarot is that it is a visual or a physical representation of information that we already hold within ourselves. So everything that the tarot cards say to you as you're doing a reading or having a reading is really something that you already know about yourself. You already, in the deepest, darkest depths of your soul and your spirit, this is all already there. And it's usually information that we hold in our gut and our heart that hasn't quite made it up to our heads yet. And so that's part of why I love the tarot, is it helps us sort of, intellectualize or mentally kind of wrestle with the things that we might be emotionally or even like intrinsically, like our gut level, trying to navigate for ourselves.
So we just have to trust our gut. So Lynn, I want to go back over to you, because I think, again, it's the combination between altruistic and capitalist. Like there's an aspect, there has to be an aspect where at some point you trust your gut, when you move in order to even have that type of energy. Would you say?
I think that's a really good point, and something that I wrote about recently, actually. We're so focused on the business case of stakeholder capitalism, which is, if businesses focus on being purpose-driven and creating a positive impact for the environment and the community, how is it that we can see the returns? I mean, that's what all the CFOs and all the finance directors want to know. What is the return on investment if I invest in diversity programs, or if I invest in circularity programs, sustainability programs for a company? What is the business case? But sometimes perhaps we should think about, and I'm putting this to the group as well, what is the social case of investing and being purpose driven first? I mean, isn't it the right thing to do? Like, all right, fine, we invest in diversity programs, so we check the box on having the right diversity mix in our companies. But how about investing that extra bit and investing in inclusion and equity as well? And we invest in training programs, but how about investing a little bit more in terms of the quality of these training programs for our employees? So that's a social case rather than a pure business case, because there's some things that we just can't measure from a quantitative point of view. And maybe Callan has something to say about that. But sometimes there is not, we should invest in certain things within the business that is not directly measurable from a return on investment ROI perspective.
We're gonna get
social capital, right, Lynn?
Sorry?
It's like social capital, right? Like when you are moving through the world in a way that's really authentic and real and pure, you're going to have a lot of social capital for the people that meet you, no matter what the walk of life is that they come from.
Absolutely.
Yes. And it's just sometimes about doing the right thing in business. And that affects your brand reputation, that affects your brand value, that affects your brand equity. And ultimately, in the end, that leads back into whether or not people will buy from you, people will invest in you, and people will work with you with these businesses. You have to, you think about the impact and the legacy that you want to leave behind as a business.
Oh, that's beautiful. Did we scare you away, Peter?
No, on the tarot cards, I just wanted to say, A, super interesting, but B, I always really like the art on tarot. Super like occultic, mystery school type stuff. I really dig it. On the altruistic capitalism, just curious. So you're really making the case that we should make these decisions not necessarily because they revolve back around and create a return on investment for the business, but purely because it's good. And that's like what altruism means. Do it not necessarily for a return, but you're also then making the case that ultimately in the long term, it's good for your business to make these kind of investments. Is that
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I that is what I'm saying, Peter. It's difficult to draw the direct link between investing in inclusion, investing in equity, and how it then relates to business value. But instinctively, we know that if we invest in these things, it will create business value, and it is good for business. Such companies will be better at retaining employees, better at retaining knowledge, and also have more creative and innovative cultures. So instinctively we know, but it's hard to write the business case for it because you can't draw the direct link between investing in these programs and ultimately how it results on the financial statement. If you know what I mean. If you're looking at it from a pure how people traditionally write the business case, it's hard to derive the equation for return on investment.
Yeah.
Callan, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think you can. There's enough data out there now that you can, align almost, any type of activity back to a business. And if you can't, then it really, as like if I'm looking at investors, so you come to me and say, hey, Callan, I think we should put this thing into your company. And I'm like, okay, well, how are we going to measure the rate of return? For sure. This is going to be my first question. how much it's going to cost. And you're going to say, well, it's going to cost X, Y, Z, and this is the impact it has on our staff. I'm like, okay, well, if we have no rate of return that we can measure, then let's get a baseline, right? Like, I think when you approach the idea of, because like some of my companies have been relatively altruistic, like, making sure every student in the world graduates from high school with the ability to take care of their physical and mental health. It's a pretty big, audacious goal. But I'm establishing a baseline when I go into these schools. So I'm saying, okay, measure where we are now, like today. So whatever we put in place here, we can track how it's impacting the student and the teacher and the school board. And so that the school board can then say, listen, last year we had $3 a student in this demographic that we put towards phys ed, and one of the 5 or 6 of the schools uses software, and they increase the physical competency in students by 26%, and their mental health through self-feedback went up by 22%. So let's double down. Let's put more money in. So I think the idea of altruistic capital is awesome, but it starts with if you can't find existing data, and there's a lot of it out there, then you have to come in with like a hard start. Like this is how many absenteeism days we have. This is the feeling of connectedness we have within our staff. This is the feeling of purpose that we have within our staff. This is how they rate their physical health. And then we put something in place, and then we monitor its impact, whether it be, diversity, inclusion, whatever it is. Because I do think they all have a greater impact on your company. It just depends. You just have to track it. That's the key to it.
Peter, thank you. You were going to say something, Peter?
No, I was just kidding. I've got a few examples that I really like that we've worked on, and it's, I don't know. I think these were CSR initiatives that made sense for the companies and brands, but ultimately, they were to do good because we believed about the causes. But to your point, it does cycle back with a kind of virtuous circle where it benefits from, you have a company has a story to tell and all of that type of stuff in the market. So we did one, it's still ongoing with a brand. We helped Marshawn Lynch build his cannabis brand in California. But as part of the sales, we we work with a company called the Last Prisoner Project, which essentially helped people that are locked in jail still for possession of a plant, which is outrageous given the legal status in America. And now we've got huge corporations making loads of money, and we've still got people rotting in jail. And so this initiative helped people that were in that program, and we would take people in jail when they get out. It's very hard to get employment, and give them internships. And so, it helps us from a kind of, we always need good people, but it helps society in general. It's a cause we believe in, but it makes sense holistically from a kind of brand perspective as well. It's something that we're all passionate about, but it ties in with, drug reform that we're pushing back against. And then there's a really cool company here that I love that I'm not part of, called Cotton, which sells really nice kind of cotton t-shirts. One of the founders is Egyptian, and he started the company because the Egyptian cotton trade had really, really fallen off, and subsidies weren't coming in from the government anymore. So it'd been really decimated. And so they created this company to reinvigorate the supply chain in Egypt, but also what they do, which I love, every Black Friday, instead of a sale, they do a sale, but it's actually, I think 30% of whatever you buy. So you still buy it for the same price, but 30% goes into building schools in Egypt for underprivileged kids. And I think they've built something like 50 schools so far from their Black Friday sale. So these kind of things I love. They make sense from a brand story perspective. You can tell the founders are incredibly passionate about it. It's not just kind of, performative, hey, let's give 10% over here because it's a bit of a story. Like you can tell it all makes sense. There's a straight line from founder to cause to story. They're doing really good. They're doing it through the mechanism of capitalism, and their brand is growing because of it as well.
I love it. I love it. Oh, this has been an interesting conversation. However, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching the show live, as well as everyone who is watching in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, Lynn.
Thank you very much for having me again. First of all, I like to say, if you think you are too small or too young to make an impact, you know, we are not too small. There's a lot that we can do. We can vote with our wallets. We can choose who we buy from, choose who we work with, and who we invest in. And I love to stay connected with the audience. You can email me directly at lynn@altruisticcapitalist.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Altruistic Capitalist. It's there with my name. And thank you again for having me on the show.
Absolutely. You have been a pleasure. Callan, what do you have for us?
Well, I'd just like to say thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Any chance I get to, you know, just meet other entrepreneurs and just throw around business ideas and talk about things is always great. Selfishly, if I can learn something and I can apply it and then get a rate of return on it, then great. But you know, I guess for me, the value that I want to try to bring to your audience is really, I hope they can take some tools that I shared today and apply them in their life in some way that helps them get better. I mean, if I was going to give every audience member of yours some piece of value, to be honest with you, it would be, you know, get up an hour earlier than you have to every single day and like spend that time with yourself. No phones, no computers, no TVs, no radios, because like you can go and outsource the best coaches in the world. Like I've got 3 Olympic gold medals as a strength conditioning coach in Canada, and there's nothing I can tell you to do that your brain and your soul don't already know that you should be doing it for yourself. So if I'm going to give your audience a takeaway, it's going to be like invest in yourself every morning and just listen. And it might make you feel vulnerable, might make you feel scared, but whatever it is that you're being told to do internally, you should just go do it. And for me, selfishly, what I want in return, I just really, I do these things because I obviously want to get my brands out there and build trust between what my companies are doing in the world and people, because, you know, I don't know how many of your listeners have a friend or a teacher or whatever who might know somebody and say, hey, listen, this guy, hopefully you realize I'm genuine, I'm cool, I'm in it for the right reasons, and you should check out his company. And that's what I'm looking for in return. So anyone who, you know, can just share the word that we're good people here doing a good thing, I think that's my goal.
I love it. I love it. We'll spread the word. Thank you. Peter, what do you have for us?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been really fun. Would love to stay connected to you all on the panel, but also listeners out there. You know, general advice, I just think about things that have worked for me. I never regret less phone time. I never regret a workout. I never regret going into nature more. And so I've really tried to work on my balance, and it's really benefited my mental health, but also I feel like it, you know, pays off in time on the business side as well, because you're a healthier, happier human. If anyone wants advice or to talk about brand building or products, happy to help. I've had some great mentors in my life that didn't ask anything of me when they helped, and I'm always happy to pay that forward, whether it's for, you know, quick phone calls or email exchanges. On my business side, like, I just encourage everybody to look at the amazing power of mushrooms. There's a great documentary out there called Fantastic Fungi, which is an amazing primer on all things mushrooms. You know, integrating them into your day-to-day health is really beneficial, these natural supports. And then on the psychedelic side, if you're curious about psychedelics and what they can do, macro and micro doses, we have a blog over at gwellamushrooms.com. And we also created a product called Mojo, which is essentially a legal microdose. We wanted to replicate the benefits of microdosing in a legal platform to give people a bridge into this world in a safer, legal way. So if you're interested in that, mojo.shop. I think there's some discount codes floating around out there, inside of 30 or something. But yeah, this has been a true pleasure, and happy to continue the conversation with anyone that's interested.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter. Miss Emily, what do you have for the people?
Thank you so much, Sharifah. This has been such a delight. And, you know, I always love how the universe just provides us with the right people at the right time and the right moments. So much of the work that I've done in the world has aligned with what Lynn is doing, with what Callan is doing, with what Peter is doing, with what you are doing. So I'm just so excited to be here. I hang out on the internet mostly on my website, EmilyMcGillEntertainment.com. It's very long. I'm sorry. And I also love to hang out on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Emily Ann, ANNE MCG. And, you know, I mean, the fact that we just did a tarot reading for a group of people that weren't expecting it on the internet just makes my whole day better. You know, the willingness for folks to step outside of their comfort zone. As Callan said, you know, doing the thing for yourself, listening to yourself, like that is the ultimate. And one of the ways I like to do that is through the tarot. So I'm just so grateful to have been able to connect with all of you today. Health and wellness is so important to me, giving back and paying it forward. I'm a huge fan, like I said, of cannabis and of mushrooms. So, and of course, with connecting with people and bringing folks to the table. So thank you all so much.
You are welcome. Thank you. I want to thank you all for being guests on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch this show live, as well as everyone who is watching in the archives. I definitely appreciate your support. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you sharing. But the most important thing to me is that you support our guests. Our guests are here this morning to support you, to share their information, their knowledge, their expertise, their views, their tarot readings with you. So please support them. Their website links are in the description, in the post. Follow them on social media, send them a message, reach out to them. And when you do, please let them know Sharifah Hardie says hi. Now, if you're interested in more ways that I can help your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit my website at AskSharifah.com. Until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.